Hello, everyone. We are joined here today by Tom Nichols, who's the broadcaster and director of media relations for the Dayton Dragons. First off, Tom, I know you said you travel with the team. How's everything in Michigan today?
Well, as of the recording that we're doing here, Greg, we're about to start the second half of our season. We finished the first half last night with a win. In fact, we won 5 of our last 6 in the first half, which actually lifted us into a tie for second place and gave us a winning record in the first half at 34-32. So we're anxious to get the second half going tonight and hopefully win a second half championship and reach the playoffs.
I love it. That's good stuff. Well, before I want to go down with some of the Reds prospects with you and just talk about what you see from certain guys. But before we go down that route, I just want to say I watch a lot of the Reds minor league games and stay up to date with the broadcast. And you do a great job on the Dragons network. I think you guys do about as good a job as anybody because, man, when you watch some of those Reds, are not just Reds minor league teams, but minor league teams as a whole, there's some bad broadcasts out there. So I just wanted to shout out you and shout out to everybody who gets those broadcasts going because they're very good compared to a lot of them out there.
I appreciate it. Everybody's doing the best they can out there, I'm sure, and they're all trying to get better. Thanks for the kind words.
That's right. Well, the first guy I wanted to dive into is probably one of my favorite Reds prospects. He's dealt with a lot of injuries over the last couple of years, but this year he finally seems to be healthy. Very exciting player to watch, speed and power, and that's Jay Allen II. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you've seen from Jay Allen and the exciting year he's had, and if you think he will get, possibly called up here in the near future?
Yeah, Jay Allen II is a guy I really like. He's in his 3rd year with us. He came up at the end of the 2022 season with the Dayton Dragons, and I really liked him from the beginning. Our manager that year just loved him, Rhett Lowder, because he brought so much energy to our team. And when a new guy comes in and raises the energy level for the whole team, it actually helps your club. And we won more games with Jay in the lineup that year. He just lifted our club to a winning streak. Then he came back last year and really struggled with injuries. He got hurt the very first series of the year. I think it was the 3rd game of the season. He injured his thumb and was out for about 2.5 months. And when he came back, he was basically going through spring training while everybody else was in midseason form, and he didn't play well at all. And I think that for that reason, it was really an unfair position to be in. But for that reason, you saw him drop off basically all the prospect lists, or most all of them. And so he came in this year, I think, with something to prove because he was going sort of in the wrong direction as a prospect. And he's really had a good bounce back year. For the most part this year, he's been up over 300, a lot of power. He's hit 9 home runs in a half season, despite I think he missed about 11 or 12 games of our 66. So he missed almost a quarter of our games, and yet he's still got 9 home runs. He's a big base stealer, very good defensive outfielder, and big thing is, can he stay healthy? He plays hard, and guys who play like that, they do tend to have injuries, and it's hard to tell those guys don't play as hard. I mean, you've seen it with the Reds a little bit with this year with TJ Friedl. You saw that same thing with Nick Senzel, guys that really play the game really hard. Sometimes they tend to have injuries, and he's been that way. Now, the other thing is this year, this one is a little bit of a mystery. He's already been hit by a pitch 13 times. Our club record is 17, and he's been hit 13 times. We're just starting the second half. And I talk to him about it every day because he doesn't really get it. He doesn't feel like he stands any closer to the plate than anyone else. And that's fortunately, those 13 hit by pitches have not caused any injuries. He hasn't had any broken hands, broken fingers, anything long, broken wrists that you'll see guys get with hit by pitches. And but a good guy, really good personality, good energy guy, well liked by his teammates. Should see him back on a lot of the Reds' top 30 lists at the end of the season. Now, he's been in a little bit of a slump lately. his average has dropped about 30 points in the last week and a half or so. He's down to 271. So I'm hoping he can bounce out of that. We're in game 4 of our series. He does not have a hit yet in this series. So I'm hoping he can bounce back out of that quickly and get his average back to where it was. But he's a leadoff type guy, and a guy that I look forward someday to seeing in the major leagues.
Yeah, great stuff there for sure, Tom. Yeah, like you said, he's one of my. I think the way he plays the game is why I love watching him so much. And you made a good point. Like TJ Friedl plays that way in the Reds, and he's got hurt a couple times. Now, a couple of it was fluky, getting hit in the wrist, but the other 2 were diving for baseballs and doing that. But I think that at the same time, that's what makes him so exciting to watch. So really good stuff there on Jay Allen. Appreciate the detailed response. The next guy, as you talk a little bit about Jay Allen being in a little bit of a slump, I want to talk about is Cam Collier. Obviously, he came out, for everyone that doesn't know, he was the Reds' first-round draft pick a couple years back out of high school. He started the season just absolutely on fire after struggling somewhat last year, but he still leads the Reds in home runs. I think some people would like to see him walk a little bit more, but he's still a young kid. What are your takes so far on what Cam Collier has brought to the Dragons and what you've seen from him so far this season?
Well, good questions. And, at this point, I think a lot of us are wondering, which one is the real guy, because he came out in April. And as you mentioned, he was Reds minor league player of the month, and most months would have been Midwest League player of the month. He hit over 300. He had, I think, maybe 8 or 9 home runs in April, and a lot of RBIs. Just really hit. I think he was up around 400 with runners in scoring position. So that was just a real valuable guy in the middle part of your batting order who's going to drive in runs and win games for you. And then the month of May came, and he just went into a dreadful slump. And now we're into June, and he's been better than he was in May, but he certainly isn't anywhere close to back to where he was in April. At this moment, his average stands at 239. That gives you an idea of how rough the month of May was. He does have 11 home runs, and he's driven in 44. So he's on pace for 20 plus home runs and 80 plus RBIs, which would be big numbers in our league. And we'll see how things go. I mean, pitchers are going to adjust when they start seeing what you can hit and what you can't hit. The things you can hit, you stop seeing, and the things you can't hit, you start seeing a lot of. So that's maybe something that's happened to some degree. He'll have to make some adjustments. He's got a high baseball IQ, son of a major leaguer, of course, Lou Collier. Very young player. That's one thing to keep in mind. You're going to probably see some impatience with him because people look at his experience level and his draft status more so than his age. But his age is his true age. He's 19 years old, playing in a league where he's one of the probably 5 youngest position players in the league. So you're going to see mistakes. You're going to see ups and downs like a roller coaster. And that's what we've seen so far. And we've seen it month to month, and we've sort of seen it game to game, where he'll have a game and people just walk away going, wow, that is a prospect right there, because he'll also make big defensive plays at third base and look great. And then the next night, he might strike out 3 times and make an error and just not look comfortable in the field. And that's part of being a 19-year-old player. So the fans are just going to have to be patient with him. And just because he's already in high A and had a good month of April certainly doesn't mean it's time to push him to double A. There's a school of thought out there that I just hate, where people talk about challenge your hitters when they're young by promoting them quickly. And really, numbers don't even tell you when a guy's ready to be promoted. I don't like the idea of looking at numbers, especially in OPS, to see if a guy's ready to be promoted. If that were the case, you'd see college numbers translate to minor league ball. You don't see that at all, because you don't see the same kind of pitching in the minor leagues as you saw in college. In the minor leagues, you're going to see 10 or 11 quality pitchers on every staff, where in college you might have seen 4. So that means you're going to get a lot of at-bats in college against guys that are never going to go anywhere. You might build up your average doing that, and your average might look great, or your home run numbers, but you're doing that against guys who are never going to make it. So really what dictates whether a guy's ready to move up? Can he do the things that you'll have to do at the next level? Can he hit the kind of pitchers that you're going to see at the next level? You can't see that at all in his stat line, because they don't differentiate what he did against the best pitchers against what he did against guys that you'd never see at the next level. It's like the old story about a man who drowned in a river its average depth was 1 foot. You know, it doesn't tell you that at certain places it was much deeper, and other places it was more shallow. So you can't really use numbers. You have to look at the player individually and say, okay, what does he do against the kind of pitchers that he will see in AA? And that's how you really have to look at it. Collier's got a ways to go. I think he's going to be a good guy. Just be patient with him. Remember his age, and don't get too alarmed if you see lengthy slumps, because he's got plenty of time to learn the game, become a better prospect down the road.
Yeah, really great stuff there. And I think I'm probably guilty of being one of the guys who just looks at the numbers. I think you bring up a great point there of there's so many guys in the minor league, especially high A, that will never make it to the majors, let alone maybe not even make it to AAA or AA, you know? So I think that's just a fantastic point out there to everybody to, like, the stat line doesn't always show the full picture, you know?
That's true.
So
that's true. I mean, if
really good.
You know, as a fan myself, and I'm as big a Reds fan as there is anywhere, you know, you look at the numbers and you see a guy do something and say, okay, move him up. If everybody did that, the batting champion in every league would hit 240, because anybody hitting higher than that would be out of the league. So you'd see batting champions hitting 240. But so you just got to be patient. And again, look at the player's individual skills. And if you see him in a game and you see him come up, for example, watch a guy in a situation. If you watch on maybe MILB TV, watch what he does when the pitcher knows he's really got to get him out. Let's say it's a key spot late in the game. Go ahead, run on third, or tying run on third, less than 2 out, or even with 2 out. And you know, that pitcher is not pitching in the same way as he would be in a bases empty situation with a 5-run lead. In those situations where the pitcher knows he's going to throw everything in his arsenal to try to strike that guy out. Maybe, you know, you see it at the big league level even. Your better hitters in those situations, you know, you would probably put a lot more trust in someone like maybe, let's say, a Spencer Steer in that kind of a situation to get the bat of the ball, avoid the strikeout, and get that run in, than maybe somebody else who, you know, you can't really trust there. So watch that guy in that kind of a situation. Next time you're watching a game on MILB TV and a prospect comes up to bat in a key spot where the pitcher really has to have a strikeout, and he's using all of his pitches, and he's trying to spot his pitches, change speeds, get the hitter off balance. Can the hitter make the adjustment, get the ball in play, and get the run in? That's really what it takes when you see those guys and try to decide whether they're ready to go to the next level.
Yeah, really good stuff for sure. And then just one quick question about Cam Collier that I know people want to people ask about sometimes, and I'm probably guilty of watching a lot of at-bats sometimes and don't always pay attention in the field, but how has he looked defensively at third base? Do you think that's somewhere where he will stick? Or what are your thoughts defensively on Cam?
Inconsistent, but you do see the skills. So he is a little bit behind, in my opinion, Sal Stewart defensively at third base. Stewart right now is the better defensive third baseman, but Cam does make his share of outstanding plays that the crowd goes crazy over when he makes them. He'll make great plays. He'll have games where he looks like a Gold Glover, but as a young player, you play the game 6 days a week in our league. And when you have those moments of loss of focus, the ball does find you. And that's when you make the error that the fans then say, you know, a high school kid could have made that play. What happened? Well, the high school kid's not playing 6 days a week, 9 innings a game. So it is tough to maintain that focus every single moment of every game. And that's part of what the experience of learning to play the game is all about. So he does show the skills, but he's got a long way to go. I think the skills are there. Will he stay at third base? A little early to say. And I think the Reds would agree because they do not want him playing any first base at all right now, even as an emergency moment where you have to have someone to play there, because we really don't have a first baseman on our team anymore. We moved up Ruben Ibarra. There's really not a first baseman left, so they've been using different guys to really play other positions to play first base. Collier's not one of those guys, neither is Stewart. They do not want those guys worrying about first base. And so Collier eventually, will he have to move to first or even maybe left field? Too early to say. To stay at third, it is going to require, I think, hard work to maintain the agility. He's going to be a bigger player as his body fills out. Will he have the quickness and explosiveness to go get the ball when you have to? We'll see. He's got a good attitude. He's a good kid. And, the Reds really in recent years have, I think, made a point of acquiring or drafting good guys, people who work hard, who have the right attitude. And we've seen that in some of the trade acquisitions. Sometimes when you make a trade and you get a new player, there'll be something that's not showing up on paper. There'll be a reason why the team that let him go was willing to let him go. Sometimes it'll be bad attitude, laziness, sense of entitlement, those kind of things. And you get them and you go, okay, I see why this guy was traded. We've gotten good guys. I mean, some of the guys they've gone out and picked up right down the line. And the draft, they I think, made a point of doing the same. And we had Edwin Arroyo last year, as good an attitude, work ethic as any player you'll see. So it sort of goes against the idea that players who were traded have something that the team that gave them up didn't like. Otherwise, they would never have been willing to give them up. You could look at a Spencer Steer, same kind of deal. The Reds picked him up from the Twins. Really hard-nosed, good attitude player, leadership qualities. So that's it. And Collier will be a good guy. Just give him some time. Defense is at this point inconsistent, but shows some flashes of potential.
Awesome stuff there on Cam Collier. I know Reds fans love hearing about him because he's obviously, like you said, a big draft pick. But I think it's good stuff to tell the fans to be a little patient. He's still a young kid and was playing high school ball a couple years ago. On to the next one, we'll go to Hector Rodriguez. I actually just put out a tweet about Hector Rodriguez this morning. I think he's hitting 355 since May 22nd or something like that. The thing that amazes me about Hector Rodriguez is he chases. I know he chases a lot outside the zone at times, especially last year. He had a huge chase percentage, but he's striking out at less than 10% of his at bats this year, which is pretty impressive. So just what have you seen about Hector Rodriguez, and what do you seem to like about Hector Rodriguez? Obviously, for the Reds fans that don't know, he was a part of the Tyler Naquin trade with the Mets.
Well, the point you just made is a good one, and it does illustrate sometimes that when you look at stats, there is often a deeper reason. If you watch the player, you'll see the reason, and what you just mentioned is very true. What he has that allows those things to be true that you just quoted is tremendous bat to ball skills. So when he swings to the pitch, he can hit it better than almost anyone else you could find. So it doesn't matter if it's in the zone, out of the zone. When he swings the bat, he hits the ball. He oftentimes barrels it up. We call it bat to ball skills. Very, very elite bat to ball skills. So he can get away with chasing pitches that aren't right down the middle and still hit them hard. He hasn't struck out much at all this year. And part of the reason is he is aggressive early in the count, so he doesn't get into two-strike holes. He puts the ball in play on the first, second, third pitch. So he's never in that at 0-2, 2-2, whatever. He's just not in 2-strike situations where he's going to strike out. That's there's a two-sided. You talk about, everybody wants players to walk more, it's higher on base percentage. Obviously, there's value in walking. There's also a little bit of a trade-off, better chance of striking out when you're deeper in the count. If a guy hits, the first pitch often is the best pitch you're going to get to hit. You're going to hit it hard somewhere. If you look at batting averages sometime, first pitch of an at-bat, they are high right down the line because oftentimes that may be the best pitch. Pitcher wants to get ahead. He wants to start off an at-bat with strike one. You're going to get a good pitch to hit. You go up there and you go deeper in the at-bat, there's a better chance you're going to walk. Yes, there's also a better chance of a strikeout. So if you're Rodriguez, you can get away with that because he has tremendous bat-to-ball skills. He's hitting at this point 310 for us. Let's just talk about some of his skills. Okay, has moved to the outfield from second base, and he's second year full-time as an outfielder. Defensively, he is our weakest outfielder. That's not really a knock on him. The other three are very strong. That would be Carlos Jorge is a potential gold glover in center field. Jay Allen, same, very, very good. Ethan O'Donnell, way above average defensive outfielder. Rodriguez is not in the same category of those three defensively. However, he's been okay. He's been good enough. He's not an adventure out there when the ball's hit his direction. He catches the ball. He makes the plays. He's got a chance to maybe improve some yet because again, this is only his second full year. And so he does probably need to improve a bit more. Otherwise, you're going to have a player whose value is going to be a little bit more limited due to being no better than average defensively. Going to hit for a high average, does have some power, above average speed, constantly puts the ball in play, dependable when you get him up there in a key spot. And that's, again, a lot of people will tell you, and I'm not one of them, but a lot of people will tell you there's no such thing as a clutch player. I don't agree with that because pitchers pitch you differently in key spots in games. They use all their pitches, they battle, they do what they think they need to do to get a strikeout versus just making the hitter earn his way on base. And Rodriguez is the guy on our club who I would be probably most in favor of seeing at the plate when I've got men in scoring position. And although, Collier had a great first month. I mean, he was absolutely a monster with men in scoring position the first month. So right now, statistically, he's probably at the top. But I think consistency wise, Rodriguez would be the guy that you would say, they just are not going to they're not going to strike him out in a key spot. So he's just not going to swing and miss. So that's a guy we can look forward to. Of all of our hitters, probably the player that I would say I would not be surprised at any point to see him go to Chattanooga. Okay, so he's the guy that's probably the most likely promotion at some point, whether that's going to happen, at the end of this road trip or sometime in the second half. I'll be surprised if he finishes the year with the Dayton Dragons. The other guys maybe will, but Rodriguez is hitting third for us in the batting order right now, where you often will put your best hitter, and he's earning his way into that spot.
Awesome. Really good stuff. Chattanooga needs some love up there because they're having a tough year. So they could use some of the Dragons' exciting players. And I love what you said about the clutch stat. I totally agree. Obviously, you can see I'm a golfer with all the flags in my background. But I know, like on the putting green, certain people love to have 4-footers and have the confidence to go up there and, make a putt. And certain people are thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to miss this. And I think that goes the same as baseball. Certain guys love to be up there with the moment, and sometimes the brights are too light, or the lights are too bright for people. So I really love what you said about the clutch stats. But on from Hector Rodriguez, the next guy, this is another one of my favorite Reds prospects, Sal Stewart. He just seems like a guy that he's just born to hit for whatever reason. I know you mentioned a little bit about his defense, comparing it to Cam Collier, but Sal Stewart, another guy, he seems to just take good at bats. He walks the most on the team, I think, on the Dragons. It seems like every time I'm watching him, he just takes good at bats. But what have you seen from Sal Stewart so far, and what have you liked about his game?
Very professional approach as a hitter. Understands the professional way to go about it at bat. He will make adjustments with 2 strikes. Just has an advanced way of approaching his craft all the way around. Very, very competent. I think you could go so far as to say cocky player. And he would probably say that's true, and I'm not going to back down from that. Very, very, very competent, grind it out type of guy who believes that he's the best player on the field and will take that into the game with him. A lot of the players on the other teams don't like him. Our guys love him. You know, one of those guys that the other team hates him and our guys love him. So that tells you he's a competitor, hard-nosed guy. I would say that if you look at the scouting reports from the day he was drafted and compare that with what we've actually seen, the one thing that would stand out is much more athletic and better defensively than we heard when he was initially drafted, where from day one, everybody said he's going to have to move to first base.
Yeah.
He's a good defensive player. I mean, our coaches would tell you he's our best defensive player, Sal Stewart. Wow. So that is not the way he was painted when he was originally drafted, and he's worked hard. He's become more athletic. He moves better, and good player defensively. Plays a strong third base. Now, the thing about Sal that I think is going to have to be, it's going to determine maybe a little bit of how the next month or so goes. I'm sure in his mind, he is ready to be moved to Chattanooga. Again, competent player. The organization obviously feels he's got things to improve on and should stay here, and that's in his best interest. So he's got to get through that, and you see it all the time with players. When they have it in their head that, I should be at the next level, oftentimes the person that they really take it out on is themselves by not going out there with the same kind of positive attitude, and they get a little down on things, and you see the numbers go down. Well, and Sal is a very competent player, so he has got to maintain that same sense of competitiveness that he has all season. And another guy that's had a little down stretch, I think his batting average is down around 270 now. It's been up around 300 all year. He's a guy profiles probably is about a 20 homer a year guy at the big league level. So he's not going to hit 30, but he's got power. He's going to hit some home runs. Maybe he will hit 30 someday. Sometimes you'll see guys, we had Jesse Winker here, and Sal Stewart is a right-handed version of the Jesse Winker we saw coming up through the minor leagues. Just tremendous, pure hitter. That was Winker in the minor leagues. And everybody said, well, he doesn't have that great of power. And then he got to the big leagues and became an all-star before injuries started to slow him down and took some performance away from him as a player. But Stewart, he's still a young guy too, 20 years old. He'll get there to the big leagues. He'll play in the big leagues at some point. Will it be at third base? He's played a lot of second for us. I don't think that's really because the Reds are looking at that as an option. I think that's mostly to just get Stewart and Collier in the lineup at the same time. And Stewart is not going to hurt you at second base. Could he be a Jeff Kent type of second baseman, offense first, okay defense type of player? I don't think yet anybody's ready to say that, but I wouldn't rule it out either. But right now he's a third baseman. At some point, could possibly move to first, but I don't know why you'd need to even think about that right now, because he's an above average defensive third baseman. Grinder type player, again, great two-strike approach, walks more than he strikes out. Look sometime, there's a stat I like to look at, because I like to say any good hitter should have more hits than strikeouts. And in this day and age, not many do at all.
Yeah.
Look at the hits to strikeouts of a hitter. Stewart's going to have more hits than strikeouts. So is Rodriguez. Those guys will have more hits than strikeouts. They're good hitters.
Yeah, that's awesome. The defensive nugget you gave me, I would have never guessed that he was the best defender on the field, because again, I don't pay attention to the defense part of it as much when I am watching, and I know what the scouting report said of him getting drafted. So really good stuff there on Sal Stewart. The next guy, we got two more I want to get into. The next guy I want to talk about is Carlos Jorge. Has struggled a little bit this year with the Dragons, but he is a top 10 prospect for the Reds. Another guy that's pretty exciting to watch. He has, I think, 16 stolen bases on the year, has some pop, I think 9 home runs on the year, if I'm right. But what have you seen from Carlos Jorge? Is there anything to his struggles? Just your thoughts on Carlos Jorge so far on the season.
Very interesting player. You see a lot of talent. He's only about 5'8". He hits the ball a mile. I'll start with this. He was a second baseman. Late last year, they started the conversion to center field. He started playing center field 2 days a week. This year, he reversed that ratio. At the start of the season, it was center field 4 days, second base 2 days. But he was so good defensively, I started to wonder, why are they still playing him at second base at all? He's a very good defensive center fielder. And there's no reason really he's not a great second baseman. He's decent, but at best average. And he's way above average defensively in center field. Why do we need to keep playing him at second base? And they're not anymore. He's
Okay.
strictly a center fielder. So that has been a very successful transition. He is going to be a star defensively in center field. Going to get the ball, runs well, really explosive, athletic, agile, can get to top end speed quickly. So from that side of things, way above expectations. Offensively, disappointment. And the reason is too many strikeouts. Struggles with a high fastball. He has power. He's 5'8", but he's got 9 home runs, so he's on pace for 18 for the year. Really good RBI man when he hits the ball. Average right now stands at 206. Can't have that. That is not what you need. And again, just too many strikeouts. Ability is there, worth keeping an eye on. Need to see better things in the second half. But the talent is there, and I would keep an eye on him, but I need to see better contact, lower strikeout numbers, and progress. And if he makes that, then he'll justify that top 10 prospect ranking and be back there next year again. If you don't see it, he'll fall some maybe into the 15 to 18 range as a prospect.
Awesome. Appreciate the nuggets on Carlos Jorge. And then one more before I wanted to give you some time, just if there was anyone else, but you got the time to see a little bit of Rhett Lowder, the Reds' #1 draft pick last year. He obviously impressed a lot in Dayton. He's kind of been up and down a little bit with AA Chattanooga, but what did you like seeing out of Rhett Lowder, and what are your thoughts for Rhett Lowder and how he'll be just progressing through the Red system?
Yes. When he went up to AA, Lance McAllister had me on his show, and I told him what I'll tell you, and that is, I have no idea where he's going to fit in as a major league pitcher. Will it be kind of as a Mike Leake type pitcher who's a number 3, number 4 starter and dependable, give you innings? I don't know. That's what a lot of people seem to think. There's a plus and a minus. The plus is he just has an uncanny ability to understand how to pitch, what pitches to use in what spots. Mentally, he is way ahead of anyone else when it comes to understanding the game situation, the how the score impacts what he's doing out there, the number of outs, who's on deck, those kind of things that so many pitchers don't get because they just think, I'm going to strike this guy out. And that's about all they think about. He understands the whole game situation. There's a couple quick stories I could give you on Lowder.
Yeah,
one of them would be, we had a game this year where it was early in the season, second start. He goes out there, and I believe he had 7 pitches left in his outing before he reached his pitch limit. And the pitching coach told him, you're not going to finish this next inning. He'd gone 4 innings. And the pitching coach said, we're going to let you start the inning, but you're not going to finish the inning. You've only got 7 pitches left. So we're going to let you start the inning. You'll face a batter or 2 batters. And that's going to be it. 4 innings. We had the lead. So Lowder really wanted to go 5. And he knew how to go 5. So he goes out there. I think he threw 4 or 5 pitches to get 3 outs.
That's amazing.
And the reason was he wasn't throwing pitches for swings and misses. He was throwing pitches for soft contact. And he got out of the inning quickly, comes back to the dugout, goes to the pitching coach and says, I've got 2 pitches left. Can I go out and start the next inning? Pitching coach said, no, you're done. 5 innings is the limit. But again, understanding where he is right there.
Yeah, what a cool story.
Yeah, another funny story. Spring training. So he's pitching an inter-squad game he's with the AA club. In spring training, guys suit up with different workout groups, and he's playing that day for the AA club, and they're playing an inter-squad game of AAA and a few major league players. And he's pitching, and he throws a slider that's like a foot outside, and Lowder's control is good. He doesn't miss by a foot. When he misses, it's by a small amount. And he comes out at the end of the inning, and the pitching coach said, what happened on that slider that was a foot outside? And he said, I looked in the on-deck circle, and I saw there was a right-hand hitter coming up next. And I haven't been happy with this way I've been throwing my slider to a right-hand hitter, and he was ahead in the count 0-2. So he used that pitch to get a rep on his slider, and imagine there was a right-hand batter at the plate. So he's thinking again, that is not the way players approach their craft usually. He is just so, and he was at Wake Forest. He was the ACC the ACC academic athlete of the year, not just baseball, but all sports.
Wow.
And so he's just a really intelligent pitcher, understands the game, what to use, and that's going to work for him. How will that profile in the big leagues? I don't know yet. He doesn't have what you would describe as an above average pitch at all. He does not have a single pitch in his repertoire you would watch and go, wow, that is an above average pitch. His fastball is average, 93 to 95. His slider is a good pitch. His changeup's a good pitch, but his repertoire as a whole, and then his command is very good. So put those things all together, and I'm not betting against him figuring it out. Okay, I'm not. The guy I would probably compare him to maybe would be Tyler Malley that we had in Dayton. Command was outstanding. He just did not throw anything over the part of the plate that the batter could square him up.
Yeah.
And Lowder, I'm not betting against Lowder figuring it out. What will that work in the big leagues? I'm sure he'll be there. I don't know how effective will it be as an all-star or just another guy. Time will tell. We'll see how he figures it out. Watch what he does the second half in Chattanooga, because he's had some struggles there. If you see a big improvement of the second half, that's a sign he's starting to figure it out. So watch for that.
Awesome. Really, really good stuff there on Rhett Lowder. Another big first round draft pick that I know Reds fans are excited to hear about. Well, this has been awesome, Tom. I appreciate the time. One last question for you. I know I've hit on several players. Is there anyone that you've seen that I haven't brought up on this list that you want to take the time to talk about, or that's really kind of caught your eye, calling all the games down there for Dayton, that you think, hey, Reds fans should know about this guy, and or you want to tell a story about anything like that?
Well, we've had several players this year that have shown flashes of brilliance that I think are worth watching. Um, Guys like Jared Lyons, who's hurt right now, is the Reds minor league pitcher of the month for the month of May. We've gotten a couple of young pitchers from Daytona that have looked really good, in my opinion. That would be Jose Franco and Gabriel Aguilera. We've got some other players on the field that, I think show you flashes. But the one guy I'll really take a second to talk about individually would be our closer, Luis May, who has had he's broken the stadium record this year by throwing 103 miles an hour. Early in the year, on any given night, you could count on he would have his command of either one or the other, the fastball or the slider, but never both. He would be able to throw the fastball for strikes and try to throw the slider, and he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And the next night, it would be the opposite. He couldn't throw his fastball for a strike at all, even though it was 103 miles an hour, but he'd be able to throw a slider for strikes. And then suddenly, about maybe early to mid-May, suddenly he started having games where he could throw both where he wanted it. And when that happened, the hitter just had no chance. And he has had a stretch of games where he just dominates. I think he's given up. I have to look at my numbers, and you could go to, if you want to check on the Dragons, go to DaytonDragons.com/digital press box and look up our game notes there. I've got this in there on the front page. I think his last 12 innings, he's given up 2 hits and has like 18 strikeouts. And that's because he's been able to throw both the fastball and the slider for strikes in the same game. And when it's coming in 100 miles an hour and you can throw a slider in the zone, which is 15 miles an hour slower than the fastball, the hitter just has no answer for that.
Yeah.
And he's going to be in the big leagues someday. 6'5", great baseball pitcher's body. He'll keep throwing harder and harder maybe. He's understanding now that he doesn't have to throw 103 to be effective. And that'll help him, I think, down the road. So watch that name as the year goes on. See how he does. Luis May, every time he comes in, it's fun to watch because you're seeing a guy that'll just make hitters look silly at this level. And then sometimes he won't be quite as good. And that's why he's still here. If he was great every single night, he'd be on his way to the next level. And that's how it works. There's another similar guy in the organization, Zach Maxwell, similar type guy, throws really hard. May actually throws a little harder. Maxwell's maybe a little more polished than May, but they're similar guys. Those are 2 guys that'll both have careers in the major leagues out of the bullpen where they can come in and show you things that no one else has in their arsenal. 100-mile-an-hour fastball with a good breaking ball. So those are 2 guys. Maxwell's in AAA now. He's had some struggles there, just inconsistency, and that's what you're going to get as he tries to improve his command and his consistency.
Well, that's awesome. I love that you said May because I actually had that in my question. I forgot to say it. As I said, that he's the kind of the guy that sticks out to me. I didn't really know anything about him before this season, and I think as I was watching, I was like, man, who is this guy that's just throwing 100-mile-per-hour heaters up there constantly? And obviously with those guys, you usually have some command issues from time to time, but he's been exciting to watch for sure. But anyway, Tom, you've given me more than enough time. This has been awesome. I know Reds fans will really enjoy this. So just wanted to say thank you for your time and great job on the Dayton broadcast all season long. We love tuning in and really thank you for your time. And I think Reds fans will really enjoy this.
Thank you very much for having us. We'll do it again sometime.